Imagine waking up, checking the news, and seeing the words recovery, growth, stability flashing everywhere. But when you check your wallet or when you check your bills, it tells a completely different story. You feel the tension, prices are up, and opportunities feel scarce. You're working harder than ever, but getting squeezed from every angle. If that sounds like you're not crazy, you're not behind, you're just seeing through the noise. Welcome back to episode 2 of Finance Unfiltered, where we talk about what's really going on, cut through the headlines, and most importantly, talk about how it actually affects you. Tonight is April 25th, 2025, and we have some huge moves. For starters, the economy is flashing warning signs beneath the surface. The Fed just made a decision that could trap millions. Gold is starting to tell a very scary story, and major companies are quietly bracing for impact. If you care about your money, your job, and your future, then make sure to stay tuned because we're going to break it down one real story at a time. First, let's talk about GDP growth and the hidden warning signs. Today, the US government announced that the GDP rose by 1.2% for the first quarter of 2025. Which sounds good, right? Because growth is good, right? But the truth that they don't want you to hear is that this growth is actually a massive slowdown. Just one quarter ago, we were at 3.1% growth. And now, we're at just 1.2%. That's a 61% loss in merely 90 days. And it actually gets worse when you factor in current inflation hovering around 3.2%. The real adjusted GDP is actually negative, meaning we're not growing, we're actually shrinking. This reminds me almost exactly of 2008. In early 2008, the GDP showed a tiny growth number and the headlines reassured everybody that there was nothing to worry about. But the reality underneath was that there were cracks everywhere. The housing market collapsed within months and millions of people lost jobs. And right now, the cracks are back. Slow consumer spending, falling business investment, and debt is stacking up. But now, what does this mean for you? If you're in a job tied to discretionary spending, luxury goods, restaurants, entertainment, expect hiring freezes and maybe even layoffs. If you're an entrepreneur, tighten up your operations, get lean, and focus on the essentials. The party's not over yet, but the music just slowed down. In section 2, let's talk about the Fed hitting pause and why that's scarier than you think. Today, the Federal Reserve announced that they will pause all future rate hikes indefinitely. But, and this is key, they're also not cutting rates yet either. And this, my friends, is when you know that they're scared. Think about it. If everything was fine, they'd be lowering rates to stimulate growth. If inflation was surging, they'd be hiking rates to let it cool off. But they're doing neither. They're stuck between two fires. Either letting inflation sneak back in or triggering a full-blown recession. It's like trying to put out a fire without enough water left in the hose. In 1979, the Fed made the same mistake. They paused rate hikes way too early. Inflation exploded again, and the only way they could fix it was by raising interest rates by 20% by 1981. Which in turn crushed mortgages, small businesses, and triggered a brutal recession. So how does this affect you right now? Well, credit card debt stays at record high APRs with 24% plus, and mortgage rates remain brutal with upwards of 6.7% locking out young buyers. Auto loans and student loans, they're all staying expensive. If you're carrying bad debt right now, you're essentially paying double inflation, tax, and interest. My advice, attack high interest debt like your financial life depends on it, because it does. Next, let's talk about tech layoffs surging again. If you thought the wave of tech layoffs ended in 2024, think again. Today, Salesforce laid off 5% of their global workforce, about 3,000 jobs, on top of massive cuts this year already by Meta, Amazon, and Google. What's happening? It's simple. Companies aren't betting on hyper growth anymore, they're betting on survival. And AI is replacing repetitive work faster than anybody ever could have imagined. A friend of mine, a top sales rep at a software automation company, hit sales targets for 3 years in a row. Loyal employee, right? But last year, she got replaced by one AI service chatbot and one overseas employee. It didn't matter how good she was, what mattered was margins. The brutal truth is, if your job can be outsourced, automated, or replaced by AI, you're already at risk. I'm not talking about in 5 years, I'm talking about right now. So here's what you need to do. You need to learn the skills that are hard to automate. Strategy, creative thinking, relationship building, leadership. Start building multiple income streams, even small ones. Start building a brand, not just a resume. Because that safe 9 to 5, that's just a fairy tale now. Next, let's talk about gold breaking another record and what it's really saying. Today, gold hit a new insane record of $3,340 per ounce. And whenever gold starts to set records, smart people start to pay attention. Gold doesn't spike when the world feels fine. It spikes when people start to stop trusting the system. In 2011, the price of gold soared during the US debt ceiling crisis. And in 2020, gold soared during the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, we have debt at record highs, inflation sticking around, global trade wars flaring up, and trust in central banks dropping. Big money is moving out of cash and into hard assets like gold. No, I'm not saying go dump your entire paycheck into gold bars, but what I am saying is diversify what you hold. Own things that can survive chaos, like cash, real estate, digital assets. Because if the system shakes harder, and it will, you want to be holding assets, not just pieces of paper. If you take one thing away from tonight's news, let it be this. We are in a transitional period. The old playbook of go to school, get a job, save a little money, and retire at 65 is dead. The people that are winning in 2025 are the ones that are able to think smart, stack skills, use leverage, and invest for their future. They're thinking to be investors, not just workers. The world is changing, and the headlines will keep spinning half-truths. But people like us are paying attention, we're preparing, and we're going to own the next decade. This was Finance Unfiltered for April 25th, 2025. And if this video gave you any value, make sure to smash that like button, drop a comment letting me know how you're adapting to the new economy, and subscribe so you never miss the truth behind the noise. I'll see you tomorrow night. Stay sharp and stay building.